amigos de Wine News TV Puerto Rico? Estoy en Metropol de Guaynabo una vez más, este restaurante muy querido por todos ustedes, donde ya les he traído contenido. Estoy con el Chief Winemaker de Beaulieu Vineyards, una joya de bodega en Napa Valley, el señor Trevor Durling, y vamos a estar hablando de 4 vinos tintos. I'm excited, man.
I am too, man.
I'm really, really excited. We have Suckling's Wine of the Year here, I don't know if that's the vintage, but we have the wine. And I'm super excited. Thank you to Plaza Cellars, Boutique Duban, Jorge Wolf, and everybody behind having this sit-down made possible. So is this your first time in Puerto Rico?
This is my first time in Puerto Rico, and I'm very excited to be here.
How long have you been here?
Not less than 24 hours now.
Oh, okay.
So, but I got a great night of sleep last night, so I'm ready to go. I feel like this morning I'm, a new man, and I've been looking forward to coming here for quite some time.
You had Puerto Rican coffee?
Oh, of course.
Oh, that'll wake you up, man.
About 8 cups so far, so I've got a lot of energy.
Puerto Rican coffee will make anybody a new man. So tell me a little bit about Beaulieu Vineyards. It's royalty. I mean, everybody has seen or heard, or some who are fortunate have tasted these wines. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about the winery.
So we are one of the oldest and longest continuously operated wineries in the Napa Valley. We were founded in 1900 by a Frenchman named Georges de la Tour.
Wow.
And he moved to California in the 1880s with a vision of crafting wines in the New World that would ultimately rival those of Europe. And our real claim to fame would have been, well, first of all, founded in 1900, he purchased, quite a bit of acreage in the Rutherford Bench, which is an area in the middle of the Napa Valley that's absolutely perfect for Cabernet Sauvignon. But he started making sacramental wine for the Catholic Church early on, and this is how he was able to survive the Prohibition period. So while most people, of course, were shutting down, he was able to actually quadruple the size of his production.
Incredible.
By the time Prohibition ended in 1933, he started really turning his eye more towards the quality of wines coming out of Beaulieu and the region in general. And he hired an enologist out of the Pasteur Institute in Paris named André Teleschev.
Royalty.
Yeah. And so André, single-handedly changed the landscape of the Napa Valley, the way that wines were made. And with the first vintage of Georges de la Tour Private Reserve, which is our flagship that we'll be tasting later, 1936, you had a new benchmark and standard of quality for the entire region.
Do we say Andre is like Michael Jordan, Lionel Messi, Roger Federer?
All of them combined.
All of them
into
one.
Yeah, it's a big statement, but we call him the maestro, the father of Napa Valley Cabernet.
For sure.
If it were not for Andre's existence, the Napa
All right,
Valley
while we taste the wines, I also want to hear about you, because not only do you go all over the world and promote these wines, but you also are behind the making of these wines.
Yep.
Let's get into the first one, and then I want to hear your personal story. Which one is the first one? The left,
All
right?
right, so we're going to taste the Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, right? So this is our, let's say, across the Napa Valley tier, this is our entry-level wine, which is very, very strong and representative of the Napa Valley in general. We own and farm about 1,100 acres.
I've had this wine many times, and to call it your entry, this would be the top wine of any other winery.
Yeah. So, it really is meant to highlight and showcase our estate vineyards grown throughout the valley. And again, we have about 1,100 acres. Based on Cabernet Sauvignon, as you would expect, it's going to be around 80%.
80 Cab.
Use a little bit of Malbec, a little bit of Merlot to round it out. And then the silver bullet here is Petit Syrah.
And you have remained reasonably priced, at least for this one, right?
Yes.
Despite all the accolades, all the awards, and the history. I mean, this has been around for 120 years, and this is lovely. I mean, I get that mint, that cassis, black cherry, that freshness, the menthol, mint, lovely.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I think one of the big things here, the fact that we've owned the majority of our vineyards for over 100 years, we're able to keep this very reasonably priced. And I think it's an incredible expression of the Napa Valley.
It's gorgeous. And I mean, it's on the palate. It's so silky, so polished, so refined, velvety, and yet luscious, and nothing sweet at all. Nowadays, you have a lot of wines out there. And some people like to drink sweet wines, but this is fruity, but at the same time balanced, poised. It's lovely. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Bienvenido a Puerto Rico.
Gracias. Salud.
Lovely, lovely wine. And let's get into your life a little bit. So, are you born and bred in California, or are you?
Yes, sir. I was born and raised in Sonoma, California,
Okay.
so I haven't gone that far since then, right?
Yeah.
Over to Napa Valley now. But interestingly, I didn't have any family members who are in the wine business.
Right.
My father spent the majority of his career in the beer business,
Okay.
which was very advantageous for me because we always say as winemakers, it takes a lot of good beer to make great wine, right? But I did grow up in a family that always had wine present at the dinner table. My parents are, very into it. They're collectors, etc. I was able to learn about wine from a very young age.
And you're fairly young. How old are you?
I'm 40 years old.
I'm 45. So now you're a winemaker.
We're both young. We're spring chickens.
Yeah.
We're young.
And you're a winemaker at Beaulieu, man. So what's next after this? Margot, Lafitte?
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So you were exposed to wine since an early age.
From an early age, and I spent part of my childhood in Colorado, so we did move around a bit. Ended up landing back in Northern California, and originally my plan was to go into the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and this came from the fact that I was very, very close to my grandfather, who spent 39 years in the service.
Thank him for his service. Thank your family.
Amazing guy. And I ended up deciding not to do that because that was a big commitment as a senior in high school, right?
Yeah.
To make that decision, I went to UC Davis, and still was on this path to eventually go into the Air Force and become a pilot. But during my freshman year of undergraduate there, I took an introductory winemaking course, just out of personal interest.
You caught the bug there.
I caught the bug, the light bulb went off, and I decided, this is something I could really consider as a professional option. Wow. That following summer, I worked for a vineyard. So I actually worked a harvest for Sonoma-Cutrer Vineyards in Russian River Valley. Was mentored by the great Terry Adams. Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, which was wonderful because it's typically earlier in the harvest season. Exactly. So I was able to get back to Davis for the fall, and I just absolutely fell in love with it and changed my entire direction.
Once the wine bug bites, it doesn't let go.
Exactly.
It doesn't let go. Even for people who are not in the winemaking process, like I communicate, I blog about wine. I've been doing it 15 years, and each year I enjoy it more. Let's go into the second one, the Tapestry. Tell me about this one.
Okay, Tapestry is one of my favorite wines, of course, to make and to talk about for one reason, which is that there are the fewest amount of winemaking rules when it comes to this across the board.
And why
the reason for that is this is labeled as a red blend, right? So there's nothing that tells me as a winemaker that I can't use any percentage of any varietal that goes into this. So it really is an expression of what Mother Nature's given us for that growing season. First vintage was 1990. The one thing that every vintage of Tapestry will have in common is that it's a blend of the 5 main Bordeaux reds. So it's Cabernet based. That can range anywhere from 40% to as high as 80%. Merlot and Malbec would typically be the next two largest portions, and then you have Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot.
It's lovely. Again, the nose is so elegant. I mean, a lot of people may mistake this blindly for a Bordeaux wine.
It's a Bordeaux style blend, yeah.
It's gorgeous, but you have that sweet, juicy fruit. Not sweet, I guess, generous fruit, layered fruit from California, the California sun. Let's go to the palate. Oh my God! Again, such a perfect landing. The entrance, so refined, so elegant. I mean, elegance is something I guess you appreciate visually. But you can also taste it.
Yeah.
And this is very elegant on the palate.
Thank you for saying that. And I think one thing that's really highlighted in Tapestry across the board is it's that freshness.
Yeah, freshness and the acidity is right there on point. Sometimes certain wines, especially from hot areas, tend to kind of lack that acidity that actually helps in the process of pairing wine with food.
Oh, 100%.
And also cleanses the palate and also makes you salivate and want to go for a second or third glasses. Delicious. But I have this expression that people laugh when I say it. These are big boys, but they're very, very well poised. It's like Shaquille O'Neal on stilettos.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. And
I'm using that one.
It's an ugly picture, but Shaq walking it like Cindy Crawford, right? Not falling around.
Those better be strong stilettos.
Strong stilettos, but delicious wine, my God. And at the end, there's this like bitter chocolate, this saltiness that makes you salivate. Wow, what a wine. And again, for the quality, this has also remained under 75.
Yeah, it's $65 typically.
$65, my God. I'm taking some of this, and you're going to sign the bottle for me.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's get into so you work for this winery in Russian River for how many years?
Yeah, so I did one harvest there, right?
Okay.
And so then I went back as a second year of undergraduate at Davis, changed my entire direction towards viticulture and enology. And then the next couple of vintages, I worked as an intern making sparkling wine in Carneros.
También Carneros?
No, actually, it was Gloria Ferrer.
Yeah, okay. Freixenet.
And that was, it was fantastic. And again, you have
good
an earlier
juice,
harvest,
good juice
right?
for the
really
price.
Great wines for the price, absolutely. And after I finished at Davis, I then got a job at a small high-end Cabernet vineyard in Sonoma called Moon Mountain. At the time, it's now called Repris. And this is where I fell in love with Cabernet Sauvignon. So I spent about 6 years of my career there before coming over the hill to the Napa Valley in 2010, joining as the assistant winemaker for Provenance Vineyards and Hewitt, which I still make today.
Oh, you do?
I do. I brought Hewitt with me to Beaulieu in 2018. But I was named winemaker for BV in early 2017.
Congratulations.
My predecessor retired.
At 35 years of age.
Yes, sir.
My God, what an accomplishment.
2 years younger than Andre Teleshchev was when he started at Beaulieu.
Oh, my God, yeah. So we're going to be friends for a long time, Trevor. So did the fact that you started out making Pinot and Chard and bubbles, for that matter, actually influences the freshness, the sort of take you give to Cabernet, that it's not overblown, but rather you seek this first two wines have an incredible finesse. Do you think that influenced you a bit?
I think it did, but at that point in my winemaking journey, I was learning the ropes. I was understanding how the vineyard, translates into the wine itself, and I understood from a very early on that you need to be very, very focused on how you train your vines and how you manage your vineyard, because that's your greatest asset, right?
Exactly.
And then in the winery, of course, you want to just shepherd the wine into the bottle and really express that terroir. So I definitely learned that. But when it comes to Cabernet, and especially coming from these legendary vineyards across the Napa Valley, we have some of the best terroir in the area. So we want that to be expressed in the glass. And so I think every wine you taste for BV, and it's been this way since the very beginning, is going to do just that.
These are the perfect wines to showcase, or I guess promote or further or validate that, saying that Napa Valley wines can rival the best of Bordeaux, the best of anywhere from the world. Okay, let's get into this one. This label changes a bit. What do we have here?
All right, so we have the Rutherford Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon, and this is a wine that I'm very, very excited about. We have obviously been making wine in Rutherford for over a century now, but this particular version of it is actually new. So 2018 was the first vintage where we significantly reduced the volume. We changed vineyard selection, so this comes primarily from our estate vineyards on the western Rutherford bench, and it is made to really express that Rutherford terroir. And there's a famous term known as Rutherford dust that I think explodes out of this glass. It's kind of a textural thing, so think of cocoa powder texture and flavor that hits you on the mid palate, melts into the finish. Very complex aromatically as well.
It's amazing. The nose is amazing.
Thank you.
The currant paste, the fig, you have the black cherry, you have that freshness, menthol, but I sense a little bit more of heft, a bit more of power, a bit more of like chunky fruit, if you will, like so chunky but not disjointed.
Right. Yeah, it's very well balanced, and one of the amazing things about the Rutherford district in general, it's a very specific microclimate within the Napa Valley, and you have these big, powerful tannins, these powerful wines, but they're very refined and rounded, and so it gives you a scenario where you can enjoy a wine like this at an early age, right? Where typically wines of this stature you'd want to wait a few years before enjoying. It'll age beautifully, but you can also enjoy it early on because of that texture. It's ready now,
but we're committing a crime, felony. This is we're drinking a baby. We're consuming a baby. It's gorgeous, and I see this sort of narrative between all the wines. We're like climbing up the ladders, the ladder, if you will, in terms of purity of fruit and texture. All three have been amazing. In terms of food pairings, like if you bring out this to a table, like or any of these wines, what do you pair them with?
Oh man, well the first three wines, most of our wines are very versatile in terms of what you can pair with. When it comes to Rutherford Cabernet, this can pair with everything from a juicy burger all the way up to a beautiful ribeye. Typically red meat would be what I would recommend. Or just on its own. I actually personally love to open the wine as I'm cooking, enjoy a couple of glasses, and then pair it with the dish afterwards. Tapestry, because of that freshness and that acidity, you can go with a little more of the, I love to do grilled summer vegetables with this. Even certain Asian dishes, it'll actually go with. Duck is another wonderful pairing with that guy. And then, of course, Napa Valley Cabernet, again, juicy burger, a wide range of different foods.
That's the steal, because over here, I bet this one is over 100, right? 100.
It's $80.
$80?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess, are you guys making money?
I know, right? Yeah.
You're selling this way. I'm going to be your consultant from now. I could sell this for 150. Wow. All right. These are. And thank you for that. Thank you for keeping the prices reasonable for consumers. I was joking about the price, of course. You know that some wineries who have maybe a third of your existence and have gotten lower grades or ratings than you have overblown the prices. Yeah. Like, it's impossible to get some of those.
Well, it's a good point, and we should talk about that for a couple seconds, because again, the fact that we've owned our vineyards for so long, right? We are less tied into rising grape prices if we were purchasing fruit.
Right.
That is very key, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And so, it's wonderful to be able to offer this quality at the
totally true, Trevor. All right, we're gonna go to the piece de resistance. This is Cinderella's shoes. This is ham from El Cairo. This is Cleopatra's pajamas. George de la Tour, Beaulieu Vineyard. What vintage is this? 2018. This has been a perfect wine for many vintages. When I say that, I mean it's been rated 100 points. Tell me about this bottle.
So George de la Tour Private Reserve. This is our flagship, right? Yeah. First vintage being 1936. Oh. This particular version of it is one of my favorites that's ever been made. Yeah. The interesting thing here is that I used a little bit of Malbec in this blend, and that's very, very uncommon. Malbec happened to be amazing in 2018. It's always going to be north of 90% Cabernet Sauvignon. The majority comes from Rutherford, so you're going to get that Rutherford dust, but it's going to have more power and ageability than this Rutherford Reserve Cabernet, which I call our Baby George, right? This is the best of the best from our vineyards that are grown across the Napa Valley, but again, mostly within the Rutherford district. Quite a bit more new oaks. It's about 95% new French oak for 2 years. Again, a beautiful wine right now. We're drinking it as a baby. This is known to lay down for 40, 50 plus years. Last night we actually did a vertical tasting going back to the mid-1960s.
I saw some pictures.
And they were still very much alive.
This is stupid good. I was interviewing, the third time I've interviewed Luis Gutierrez, who rates the wines of Spain, Chile, Argentina for Wine Advocate. And he was telling me, somebody from the audience asked, like, I had people watching live, and they asked, like, how do you know when a wine is 100 points? Mm-hmm. Because a wine, to be 100 points in his criteria, and he's a great, great taster, obviously has to be perfect in all technical terms. Mm-hmm. But also, in order to have that extra mile, that je ne sais quoi that takes you, he said, those are the wines that raise my heartbeats. Yeah. And this is that type of wine. This is perfect. I mean, it's amazing. The aromatics are there. The finish is super long, is super polished, super elegant. At the same time, is big. And this is not shotgun stilettos. This is something way better. I'm gonna come up with some analogy.
I always call it the iron fist in a velvet glove. Yeah, that's what it is. It's got a lot of power, but it has elegance and finesse.
Oh my God! And the mint, the freshness coming through the Rutherford dust as well, coming through there. The bitter chocolate, if you will, from the oak. Your oak treatment. Tell me a little bit about the oak usage for this one.
It's all French oak. Typically about 95% new barrels. So that's very significant, because if you were to take that high of an oak percentage and apply it to a wine that is less concentrated, it wouldn't stand up to it. You would be overwhelmed by the oak itself. That goes to show how strong of a backbone this wine has, because fruit is the first thing that you get. The oak is there as a structural component, but we're very, very serious about specific coopers that we're dealing with, and also specific toast levels. So I've shifted the needle a little bit towards lighter toast, which will give you a little bit more structure and less of that kind of the coffee, the more burnt flavors, because again, we want to respect and highlight the fruit itself. So there's a lot of thought that goes into that. The other key thing about this wine is that we do about 30% of it where we barrel ferment on the skins, which is a huge pain in the butt logistically, but that's where we're literally taking the barrel apart. We're running the fruit through an optical sorter, so selecting the best berries, filling each barrel with about 400 pounds of must, recoupering the barrel, and then we're rolling them during fermentation. So you get that extraction of tannin from the wood, which is your structure, but you also get this non-fermentable sugar that comes out of the wood itself, which gives you this perception of softness and roundness.
You're a genius, man. What a lesson.
It's pretty cool.
This wine, the finish is gorgeous, and there's this salty chocolate in the end, and this the tannins make you salivate. They coat everything, coats your soul. It's a delicious, delicious wine.
Thank you.
And I guess my last question before we go, it's not a question, it's more of a comment. But this wine is incredibly good and rich and tasty today. Sometimes with the first growth out of Bordeaux, you can't drink them in the first 5 years. They're impossible. Like, they're not good. Like
Right.
they're in a dormant state.
Yeah, you have to wait.
This wine is incredible now, and I can only fathom how amazing it will be not 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now. This is a wine that my kid was born in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a whole bunch of Napa. It was a great vintage in
Yep,
Napa.
13 was great.
Bought a whole bunch of Brunello di Montalcino,
Mhm.
loved Italian wines. Bought Piedmont, like Barolo, Barbarescos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, putting them away so I can drink them with him when he's of age.
Yeah, yeah.
21, 25,
Yep.
when he graduates, he gets married.
Yep.
And if you have a person or somebody in your life that was either born in 2018 or you were married, you want to celebrate that year with something that will stand the test of time and probably outlive you, get this wine. This wine is $200, $300 a bottle, right? More.
It's a little under 200. It's an incredible value for what it is. Especially for a wine that's been made since 1936. So it's definitely a great value.
Thank you for your time, Trevor.
Oh,
I've had
my pleasure.
An incredible experience sitting down with you. I'm going to be doing a lot of noise in social media to expand the brand and let everybody, all of our audience in different parts of the world know about Beaulieu. Obviously, you don't need any marketing because everybody knows you. But this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you
man.
very much, man. Salud.
Qué experiencia, mi gente. Prueben los vinos de esta bodega. Son una maravilla, son joyas. Por el precio, la calidad que le entregan es maravillosa. Este vino está en 40, este está más o menos en 50, este está en menos de 80 y este en menos de 200 y todos son joyitas. Gracias por ver. Suscríbete, dale campanita y pronto te traeré mucho más. Salud.
Muchísimas gracias.